Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh. This is going to be a slightly different episode. I have a show tomorrow with my band, the Mugshots in Singapore. It's a cover show, so we'll be covering a lot of songs from classic rock all the way till modern rock, modern pop, etc. I'll flash the set list in a second. And I've spent the better part of the last couple of hours configuring my Line 6 Helix together with my Custom 24 Piezo for the purpose of this show. And it struck me that this might be an interesting thing to share with you, how an intermediate guitarist like me uses a reasonably minimalistic setup, which is one guitar and one Line 6 Helix, to get through a wide amount of material in a show. This is not going to be an expert video, but at the same time, I think it should be something very functional. I'm going to take you through the set list. I'm going to show you how I configure the patches for each of the songs in the set list and how I've kind of sequenced the patches out, given that I do need to go through a lot of material. So here's the set list. I think it's a fairly eclectic set list. Are You Gonna Be My Girl? Great rock song to begin with. Are You Gonna Go My Way? Classic one, wonderful for a live setting. Of course, some Santana, Smooth is always popular. Can't Stop, great energy. Highway to Hell, can't go wrong. Beat It. I am not going to do the exact solo because I just don't have the time to sit and learn it note by note, but I will do something reasonably in the same cadence. Living on a Prayer, extremely popular. Sweet Home Alabama, again, can't go wrong. Hotel California, yes, it's all about that solo. Been playing that solo for I think 10, 11 years now, every time we have a show. Every Breath You Take, yes, it's a finger stretching exercise like we all know. Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas. It's an amazing song to play live. I really enjoy it. Starboy, another one that lends itself really well to a rock setting. In the End, high energy, can't go wrong. Some Backstreet Boys, not my favorite thing, but it's what it is. Everybody, that's Backstreet Boys. Seven Nation Army, probably the first song we all learned to play on guitar. Sweet Child of Mine, another thing I've been playing for many, many years. It's just a classic now. Viva La Vida by Coldplay, a crowd favorite. Hey Jude, another one, a great one to get the crowd to sing along. Wonderwall and Levitating. So quite a long list, 20 songs. I think it'll take about 1.5 hours or maybe 1 hour 20 minutes. I'm going to show you what I have over here right below me. So this is my Helix and these are the patches. So starting off with the first song, which is Are You Going to Be My Girl? What I begin with essentially is, and I'm going to show you that in a second, it's essentially a mid-gain Marshall patch. So what I do is I use, let me just jump the amp over here. So this is my patch that I call the Mar preset. It just uses a Brit Plexi. Don't worry about all the settings, right? Just get the intent of what I'm doing. So I just use basically a bright Marshall, and what I do is I typically just run a tube screamer in front of it, and that gives me the wonderful slightly saturated yet reasonably clean sound, and that's wonderful for this song, as I'll show you in a second. This song also has a solo section. So what I typically do for the solo section is I have a more saturated Marshall-like sound. This uses an EVH, something like a 5150. And what I have over here is basically that patch with a little bit of delay. So that's what is a very tiny solo in this song. So I'm going to show you this patch in a second. So it uses PV Panama, which is just EVH. And let me show you how it sounds. So that's it for Are You Gonna Be My Girl? For Are You Gonna Go My Way, it's just again a different preset within the EVH preset without a delay. So again, this is a PV Panama going into a tube screamer in front of it, a little bit of EQ. Now EQ is interesting, and let me show you why I do it. It just helps you accentuate the right frequencies. And what I end up doing is I end up adding a little bit of mid gain and cutting off a little bit of the lows and That usually gives you a very nice sound. So I'm going to show you in a second. What I also have over here, excuse me, is my solo patch. So what I have is a high volume solo patch. I tend to like a smooth solo patch, and particularly with a guitar that is not very bright. Sorry, that is not very dark, like the Custom 24. It's good to have a thick patch. And that's why I use something called, what I call arc preset. It's just Archon, PRS Archon. It's called Archetype Lead. And again, you'll see a pattern over here. When you look at what's there, there's a tube screamer in front of it just to sculpt the sound. There's a little bit of delay, and there's an EQ. So that gives me the solo sound, and you'll see, I'll show you the volume difference. There is a significant volume difference as well, which helps to stand out in a band setting. This is the regular sound. Solo. So, as you can tell, it has a very smooth sound. I really like it, which is a good segue into the next song after Are You Gonna Go My Way, Smooth. So, for me, this almost kind of Mesa sound, right? The Archon, PRS Archon sounds a lot like Mesa. So again, exact same setting, the same Archon preset, tube screamer on, a little bit of delay. The exact same setting, just in the neck pickup, it gives me that Santana sound. I'm just playing things a little bit off because, you know, copyright and stuff like that. The interesting thing in the song Smooth is that you have a lot of leads that play throughout the verse because Santana keeps peppering them in. And what I end up doing for that is I don't want to play it on this lead solo patch. It'll just overpower the vocals. So all I do is I just shift it back to this Marshall preset, MAR preset, going back to the same thing. And then you get this beautiful, you still keep it in the neck pickup, you still get this beautiful sound. And you can do all the rundowns while the vocalists are playing. So that's what I do. So just 2 patches get me through the song. I play lead guitar on this one. Can't Stop is interesting. So what I do for Can't Stop is I just go back to the Marshall setup, but what I do on the PRS is I put it in position 4, which is 2 coils split up. And then that gives you a little nice percussive sound. And I just do that. This song is also interesting because it has a little bit of a small solo, but not really a solo, but for which I just use the EVH preset, which you'll see in a second. I think you recognize that part. So again, this is just the EVH preset and the same thing. Then it also has a nice little arpeggiated part because the song's chords are basically E minor, D, B minor, C. I just put a neck pickup and I just do this small arpeggiated. So just to run you through this patch, this clean preset is essentially Archetype, again a PRS amp, Archetype clean. Few things going on over here, a double tank reverb, a transistor tape. Why do I do these things? Let me show you the plain sound, right? So if you see the plain sound of the Archetype clean, it's a very bright clean amps, which makes it very good for playing humbucker guitars because you get a very bright sound. Sorry. So you see it's a very bright sound. Then you just add a little bit of transistor tape. This delay is almost a little bit like a reverb. You don't really need the reverb, but if you add the reverb, it just gives it a little bit more atmosphere. So that's why I set up the clean patch the way I do. The next song is very standard. It's just Highway to Hell. We all know it. What I do for this is, and here's where I shift into the next setup because I was in group 2, now I'm in group 3. This is very similar, but there's small differences. I have a different lead patch over here with a EVH style lead patch, and I have a chorus patch. And the reason for that will be revealed when you see my set list. So Highway to Hell, just a simple Marshall preset. It is identical to the patch you saw in 2. So bright Marshall with your tube screamer, so you get bridge pickup. So you get very nice, little saturated. I decide actually when I go to the stage, I sometimes decide depending on the sound whether I add the tube screamer to the Marshall or I just increase the volume. But for now, the way I've been practicing it, the tube screamer is added. And then for the lead, I essentially have the same 5150 EVH patch, but with a delay. So you get you get a lot of that beautiful sound. I like a little bit of delay in the leads because particularly in a live setting, it helps the leads be a little bit less abrasive on the audience's ear, because let's face it, audiences are not necessarily guitarists and everything should sound nice and smooth. So I like to smoothen out the leads using that, even though I don't think Angus Young has ever seen a delay pedal. So that's that. The next song is Beat It. Beat It is where I use the lead patch from Highway to Hell, which is this. So I use that. That's the main one, that's the main refrain, obviously. Then what I do is during the chorus, this refrain plays, but I don't want this to overpower the refrain. So I put it back in the neck pickup and I use the Marshall patch, and I just drop my pick. You'll have to excuse me. So I go back to patch 3A, which is the Marshall patch, and I just play there. So I just play it over there. So that's that. Then for the lead, this is where I essentially use the Panama style. This is essentially the same as the EVH. I call it DVH because I misnamed it. I use this lead for the solo. And just I'm going to compare EVH versus DVH, which is the lead solo. So EVH, which is for the main refrain. So this is the verse, or chorus rather. This is the, when there's no vocals. A lot more presence because of a little bit more lead, and then for this solo, much louder. So you can tell it has a little bit of phaser built in as well, which you can. It helps you do all the it helps tapping sound a lot better, and obviously you need to have a little bit of tapping, even if you're not playing the exact Beat It solo. After Beat It, we get into Living on a Prayer. We don't have a voice box, we do have 2 vocalists. What I essentially end up doing is I end up using a wah pedal on the same EVH preset, which is the mid high gain, lower volume. And then you get a reasonable sound. So even normally without the wah pedal, I should mention I take off the delay for this one. So what I do then is for the solo, I use the same lead that I used for the Van Halen song, which is DVH, and it actually sounds pretty decent even with the in this. You can tell it sounds. Sorry, I keep stopping it so that I don't get any copyright strikes, but it sounds very decent even for the one. Very, very nice. So that's what I use for Living on a Prayer. Sweet Home Alabama, I don't have much of a role to play. Essentially, all I do is I play a little bit of background leads. My other guitarist plays most of it. So I play the intro lead on Marshall preset, and then I play a very improvised solo on the EVH preset. Not a very loud solo volume here. So that's Sweet Home Alabama. Then going back to the next song, which is Hotel California, I go back to setlist 2, and for the intro I essentially use so I play the second guitar. Let's put it this way, I play the lead and I play the lines on top. So what I do is there's an intro, if you remember, there's a part where the guitar and bass comes in. So for that I just use the same clean preset I showed you earlier, leaving all the reverbs on, switching off the delay. So I think you've heard this part. You heard that part, right? That how it begins. You heard that. So that's what I play. For the solo, remember the original solo is played by two guitarists, a Strat and a Les Paul, and also there's a double lead at the end. What I simply do is I just play a very, very smooth lead so that people can recognize the song. I used to kind of alternate like dramatically the patches between the first and the second solo, but I decided it's for the audience, it's not for me. So all I do is I just put the same arc piece preset. I play the beginning of it, the first part of the solo in the neck pickup, second part of the solo in bridge pickup, and then the famous arpeggiated part on neck pickup. That's all I do. So it doesn't sound too bad. It doesn't. Again, it's all this. Remember, all of the patches I'm showing you are meant to be played over a band. So in isolation, they may sound a little bit different. And then, of course, the bridge pickup. And then, of course, the famous one. So that's on neck pickup. That's basically all I do. For every breath you take, I have to go on to 3A, or rather set 3, where I have something called chorus preset or Cho preset. Cho preset is essentially exactly the same as the clean preset with two additions. I have added a chorus. This chorus is, I think, the original chorus on line 6. I have also added a compressor, which is always on. I haven't shown it over here. Let me just see if I can just move it and show you. This just helps even things out a little bit. And then, of course, I do it on the neck pickup. What I do is, here's where I use the custom 24 piezo neck pickup, but I put it in the mix magnetic plus piezo position. And I blend in just about maybe 20-30% of piezo. So it gives you that. Can you tell? So this is magnetic only. This is with a bit of piezo. So it has a little bit of a percussive. See, you can tell, right? It just sounds much better versus not having it on. See, it feels like it's missing something. So there's that. Let's get it started is a fun song. I actually don't have to do much in it. It's basically just chords. So all I do is I play the Marshall preset, and again I do it with a little bit of a light hand in certain parts, and then I play the heavy hand in certain other parts. And for certain parts, I may even go to the EVH preset just to add some power to the chorus. But it's mostly just, it's just basically a very easy song to play. It's just, and then it has this. So you have this kind of a staccato. So that's very fun to play as well. Marshall is always very good for staccato. I think I used the bridge pickup on this, and I haven't really decided. Really depends on what I feel like doing. Not really a guitar-based song. It's all about the vocals. Starboy is interesting. So for Starboy, what I do is, again, same pick, which is Marshall preset and EVH preset, but I also use the clean preset. And actually, I just remembered, I go back to 2, and here I go back to Marshall preset. So, Starboy is just basically A minor, G, F, and back. So initially it's just the clean preset. And then what we do is we add a little bit of a ta-ta, not with the Marshall preset. Ebony, whatever. It just gives a nice. And then to just make the chorus stand out, we just give it the full blast. When you have chord songs that use the same chords throughout, like Starboy or many others, it's important to vary the patches and to vary the dynamics to really get the audience going. Next is In the End. This requires something different. So we play it slightly, not differently, but we play it adjusted or adapted for what we need. Here is where I introduce you to a new patch called Pitch Preset. It's exactly the same as the Marshall preset, but I have added a simple pitch, which just gives an octaver, and I've added double tank reverb. And what does that do? that gives you. So, and I play it with my fingers for the verse. Remember, we are adjusting the whole thing for two guitars. So you play the intro like that, and then this one, when you go into the verse, I had just had it on. Then I think that entire part there, I put a different rhythm. I need a real fat Mesa PRS 90s sound. So I basically use the same amplifier as my lead previously, which is the Archon, but a non-delayed, just a very thick rhythm sound to just create this wall of sound. So it's just nice. So it's just very, very nice. Okay, so that's in the end. Everybody, I play more of a backing role in the song. The other guitarists play some of the riffs. So all I do is I just play chords on chorus, just to give a little bit of, not atmosphere, but some weight. I did contemplate putting in proper synth patches, but I haven't had the time to configure it. Going next to Seven Nation Army. Here is where I go back to set 3, where I have the Marshall preset. So originally it's just the bass, then in the verse it's basically very staccato. And then for the lead, I do the DVH lead that I told you about. So this is, if you hear it. So that gives it, and the bridge pickup. So that little bit of phaser gives it a little bit of that kind of eclectic sound that you need for this very simple song. And when I go higher up, I just shift it to my pickups. So, I think you're familiar with this very, very simple song. Okay, then we get into Sweet Child of Mine. So remember, I'm not playing a Les Paul, I'm playing a PRS. So I use a thick lead sound, which is the same thing that I did earlier, which is the arc preset. This is what I use for the leads. And I'm going to play that in a second, the most famous riff everybody has heard. And then for the bridge, or rather for the verse, I just put it into Marshall preset to give it a much lower sound. Yeah, that's it. So a very, very, very distinctive lead sound. Neck pickup, because I have such a thick amplifier sound, I don't really need to roll down the volume on this one. So I just do. And for the famous second solo, you just go into bridge pickup. Yeah, so there's that. So that's Sweet Child of Mine. Viva La Vida is very simple, just Marshall preset, and I adjust the speed of, the way I pick. So for the lighter part of it, how does it go? So just 4 chords, and then basically I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, just sustain it. It's basically just fading it in the hands itself, not much needed. Then we have Hey Jude. This is where I do a capo 2, and I just play the clean preset that I showed you earlier. Nothing much else needed. Very, very simple song. More of a vocalist song. Wonderwall, I don't really play it. That's a joke. No, but seriously, the other guitarist plays it. I'm just there playing, sliding the chords. I just use the clean preset, but I'm not really playing the song. It's a matter of principle. No, not really, but I couldn't be bothered. Just a stupid hang-up. Levitating by Dua Lipa. This is where actually we are working out a slightly different arrangement with maybe a bit more of a jazzy arrangement. But if it isn't, what I end up doing is just the clean preset and the Marshall preset for certain parts. That's essentially it. So wow, this was almost 20 minutes plus. So yeah, I don't know how helpful it was, but hopefully this gives you an insight into how an intermediate guitarist like me uses one guitar and one piece of equipment, which is the Helix, to do a show. I should mention how I use the Helix. Sorry, I should have mentioned that right at the beginning. How I use the Helix is it goes directly into the PA as a line out. It doesn't go into an amplifier. So it's very important. These are some things to know, some things you should know. the volumes that you will configure in your room or in the jam room are very, very different sometimes. You can get around versus what you will experience when you actually go on stage. So what I generally do is I try to readjust it when I get to the stage. Now I've reached the point where I have done it a few times that I roughly know how to adjust it. Typically, what happens is that the difference in sound between a high gain lead patch and a clean patch is amplified at lower volume. So at a lower volume, you may think that my lead patch is just too loud. But when you go and actually play on stage, you'll realize the volume difference is less because everything is just amped up so much. So that's what I have noticed. So I kind of compensate for that. And then if I can, I try to do a sound check. I mean, at the sound check, if I'm able to do some fine tuning on the volumes, I try and do it. But typically, I just try to do it at as loud a volume as possible within my house. All right. I hope this was fun and helpful. Till next time.